Hi everybody, Phil Dejean here for Dare to Draw Studios' new show, Creator Code. What is Creator Code? Simply put, we are all creators, and our code is that we support each other, period. With this show, we'll be spotlighting creators in the comics industry, pop culture, and beyond. On today's show, we have writer Kwanza Osajyefo, co-creator of Black, for a quick one-on-one. Then we will join the rest of our Creator Code panel. Editor-in-chief of The Beat, Heidi MacDonald, comics colorist, Zeea Adams, New York City comic book shop owner, Jon Gorga, and via Skype, Jimmy Palmiotti, comics TV writer and inker. Please welcome Kwanza Osajyefo. All right.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Right on. Now, all right, can I call you controversial?
Sure. You can call me Kwanza, though.
Oh, okay, Kwanza. But can I call you outspoken?
Definitely.
Definitely. I mean, because the stuff that I've been seeing, you're just doing this thing. You are quick to tell people to shut the fuck up. I mean, that's a real, throwing out those tweets there. And seriously, you are quick to say that. What brings that on?
You know, there's just a lot of people out there who, you know, think that just because they have an opinion, it necessarily matters as much as, you know, anyone else's. Like, that makes it like a reasonable argument. Like, social media has just given us this platform where everybody can just spout off all the time. And like, it doesn't necessarily mean that the thing that you say is something that I need to respect or that I need to respond to in a way that, you know, doesn't reflect the fact that you're being vitriolic.
Right. So people just like hating. But I have to say, your first comic, Black, originally you were asking for $29,000 on Kickstarter, $90,000, $91,000. Excuse me, can I back up over here?
Yeah, Jamal would correct you on that. He was like 91.
Yeah, that is 3 times as much, for real. And then for the new one, the sequel, a white, you know, you just say throwing it out 40 and already kicking over 47. You know, just saying here, you got that quick.
Yeah.
I must admit, I also gave to it.
Oh, thank you so much.
I believe.
Appreciate it.
I believe. Now, originally, this comic, the concept of black superheroes, you know, it captured people's minds. What was the reaction to people that you saw?
It was really positive. I mean, it was just an idea that me and my co-creator Tim had come up with, like, God, like what, 13 years ago now at this point? And it was something that just struck me as, you know, tapping into, you know, an underserved market. And I came up with the idea of what if only black people had superpowers, you know? And I think that spoke to people because the minute you kind of say that tagline, people's minds just go all over the place. So I think it's just something that inspires people to imagine.
Yeah, and it wasn't just black people, people of color donating. Everybody's getting in on this.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is that like I think while we're having this sort of like renaissance of like culture is what I call it, but particularly around like stories that, you know, reflect the perspectives of women, people of color, LGBTQIA, is because they haven't been presented before. So it's almost just like this untapped market of like stories that people haven't heard before because we've all been sort of like treated to this very almost Mad Men-esque version of the world and like how women should be, how like, you know, people of color should be. And now you're getting those very people telling stories their own way from their own perspectives. And I think people are hungry for it.
Now that you did the whole Black storyline, now it's the second is called White. What's going on in this story?
So, you know, even though like Black stands on its own as a graphic novel, I always sort of imagined it if I was so lucky to tell a trilogy story. So it's very much Star Wars-esque in that respect. You know, there's New Hope. This is Empire Strikes Back. So White is basically the context for the story. In the first story, it's about this young man, Kareem Jenkins, who gets shot and killed by the police, but superhero story, comes back to life, finds out he has superpowers.
X.
Yeah, and you know, and all the things that entail after that. But you know, his real conflict in the first story is like it's a secret. Nobody knows that only black people have superpowers. So he's really struggling with, you know, deciding whether it should become public or it should remain a secret. I'll give you spoilers because you should just read the book, but you know, it becomes public, and that's kind of where things jump off in White. So it's 3 years later, and one of the antagonists from the original book, Theodore Mann, has been elected president of the United States. And you're dealing with America now dealing with only black people having superpowers and just kind of how society reacts to that, how governments react to that. So it's more context, whereas like Black was very much about Kareem's story in this small microcosm in this like sort of clandestine like conflict. This is now out in the open and in the broader field of like, all right, now the whole world has to actually come to terms with what's going on.
Right on. I have a question. With the original comic, originally they had like the two people coming to heads over there in the superheroics things. There was always Juncture and his team and O.
Yes.
And they were kind of like, people always compared them to Professor X and Magneto, but then logically thinking, when they were some of the writing for Professor X and Magneto, they were basing it on MLK and Malcolm X.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting comparison, because I really think of Juncture as more of a protectionist, not a pacifist or anything. Like, you know, he definitely trains his team to be ready for any sort of situation, but it's not like contrary to conflict. It's just not about like stirring up conflict. And O is not comparable to Malcolm X at all, because I think a lot of like our history tries to portray him as like this radical, but it's not like he was out there like committing terrorist acts or anything like that. He might have seemed radical because at the time what he was saying was radical. Like contextually, yes, he was telling people what he thought to their face, but he by no means was like, you know, O is literally a terrorist.
So it's what people are afraid that these people are.
Yeah.
So they're showing what they're afraid of. Another thing I wanted to ask, like, all right, I don't know if you could go in here with this, but so people see comics coming out and then they see them moving to other mediums, So is there anything going on with Black on this front? I'm just throwing it out there, just asking. I'm just asking questions here.
No, I mean, we had the good fortune from the beginning of the Kickstarter. We were being courted by studios, so it became like quite a process of saying no to a lot of offers, and we finally accepted a deal with Studio 8, which is headed up by the former head of Warner Brothers, who is distributing through Sony. So they just came out with a movie, Alpha, White Boy, Rick. And they signed us up for Black as like a franchise deal. So Black's gonna be a series of feature films.
Wow, that's amazing. You heard it here, folks. Very cool. Other stuff for the future. Now, I know that you had the other comics going on here. You had America's Sweetheart, you had Widows and Orphans, you had, you know, all the other jams, Devil's Die. What do you got coming up next on the comic front?
Well, I was also brought into Humanoids. If you know them, they're one of the biggest French publishers, one of the biggest publishers in Europe, and they wanted to come into the American market, and they hired me to be one of their creative architects for their new universe called H1, which is, in quotes, a superhero universe, but not really, because that's not my lane. And it's a bunch of books. I'm writing the first flagship book with Mark Waid. It's called The Ignited.
Wow.
But I had a hand, along with like Yannick Paquet and Carlos Speed McNeil, in like literally creating this whole universe and all of the like physics and laws for how it's going to operate. So Ignited is the first book, and then there's also Omni, which I'm really excited about, and Strangelands are going to be our first forays into that market. So keep an eye out for it. They're coming out in August.
So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right, so next we're going to move on over to the panel. So come on over, Kwanza, let's do this. All right, I'd like to welcome the Creator Code panel. To the left of me, let's give it up for Kwanza Osajyefo. Osajyefo. All right, excellent. And next to him is Heidi MacDonald. Yeah. Editor-in-Chief of The Beat. And then Zeea Adams, artist, colorist, representing. Right. Hey. And also Jon Gorga, freelance editor, retail owner of Carmine Street Comics. All right. Represent. First thing that we have off the top is going to be the Week in Geek, the week where we will be going over things that are going on, and you guys could all chime in and give your opinions on what you're looking forward to. The first topic is going to be TV. There's going to be a new Creep show going on there. Other shows that are coming out, I'm throwing out some other ones. Big Hero 6 is coming out with a show on the Disney streaming thing. Lucifer is returning. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be dropping. Swamp Thing, Krypton, Preacher is doing a final thing, and Watchmen on HBO. And Legion. Really? Seriously? Throw out whichever ones you into. Talk about it. Kwanza.
I'm dying for Creepshow to come out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a classic.
I love the Creepshow movie and all that macabre stuff and one of my biggest heroes growing up was Bernie Wrightson.
I thought you were going to say Crypt Keeper. That was the lead. It's like, Crypt Keeper, he was really doing it for the people.
I had such a crush on Crypt Keeper. No. But yeah, the Bernie stuff and the whole macabre genre, I loved growing up.
A lot of his inking I would see, and it would look like it was scratched out of marble almost, and just his rich blacks, amazing,
stunning, yeah.
Filled up the page always.
Sure did.
Intensely not by an inch, by centimeter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And his textures were stunning.
They were amazing. It's just, the streaming playing field has just like been a boon to comics media. I mean, all of these shows, I can't even keep up with it. I mean, I run a website that's about all this stuff, and I actually forgot several of the ones that you mentioned just now. And it's impossible to keep up. I mean, there's The Boys. The Boys is also coming on
I am
Amazon.
waiting for The Boys. That's gonna be
Just
cool.
a shout out, I mean, my man Carl Urban. He's, I think this is his third time. So he's in the 3-time club. He's been Judge Dredd. He was in Thor Ragnarok, and now he's playing in The Boys. So
Can we have another Judge Dredd? I mean, come on, that last Judge Dredd was so
really
true to
good.
form.
Yeah.
I know.
But I am excited for Big Hero 6. I did not know that. And that is one of those books where it's just like, much like quite a few Marvel properties, like Disney's really just been digging deep. And it's just like, wow, Rocket Raccoon is like a thing now. And then Big Hero 6, like, I felt like I was the only one who owned those comics. And then it's like, that's the one you picked? But it's an awesome movie. And now it's going to be a Disney Plus show, I'm guessing. That's what it is?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite member of Big Hero 6?
Oh, man, I think I really love Baymax just because of how they were able to recreate that character. Because in the original book, he's just like this kind of random dragon thing or whatever, and then they just turned him into like this sweetest, bestest, most badass robot in the world. He's like a robot that gives hugs, but then also like fights giant monsters. So
Now, Zeea, I know that you have a favorite character from Big Hero 6.
Go-Go. I love Go-Go.
And you were trying to get a costume together for your daughter. It's just a story on the side here.
I don't know if she'll want me to tell you this one.
Oh, okay. Let's not blow people up, but okay.
It's fine. She loved the Go-Go costume. She loved her hero costume, and that she was on the equivalent of skates, which my mother was also, before she became a colorist, was in the roller derby, which people don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So skating runs in the girls of the family. She fell in love with the costume. I searched everywhere for the costume. I got home, I'm like, baby, I'm sorry. I went everywhere. I can't find Go-Go's costume. I can get you Honey Lemon, no problem. But Go-Go, no. She goes, what? That's a big load of fuckness. Good word usage there, but let's not use that around other people, okay?
Yeah. Well, it's disappointing when you don't get to be your favorite character.
Yeah.
I guess I'm excited to hate watch or not watch the Watchmen show. To hate watch.
Who will not be watching the Watchmen on HBO?
I definitely. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm open to it only because the movie the movie was so bad, but it was bad for all the reasons that Alan Moore said that completely translating his book into a movie would be bad. He's like, this is a comic book, go make a film. So hopefully they've learned from that because it's HBO, like they want another Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
So I think with like the slower pacing of a TV show, they might be able to pull something off because they're just gonna, they're gonna bend us it. They're gonna distill it and stretch it out.
And yet, they're not adapting the original. They're basically saying everybody knows that story now because of the movie, which is kind of bullshit because the movie did fairly well, but and then they sold another 1 million copies of the collection, but they're not adapting that. They're trying to springboard into some crazy hyper focus, like they're going to focus on the 70s in Ohio or something. They haven't even announced what it is exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean that's storytelling. I mean when you translate something to another medium, it's sort of like. And we didn't say this when we were doing the interview. When I've been talking like Studio 8 about the Black feature, one of the things I said, I was like, go Kubrick it. Like, don't translate my comic book into a film. That'll be horrible. It probably just won't work. It's like, but if you do what like Kubrick did with like The Shining, like you still can stay true to the material, still play in that universe, but maybe I don't need to see Dr. Manhattan's Blue Dawn flapping around. Like,
it's a balance.
Well, it is HBO, so
we've gotta see
hopefully
some
we're going to
dogs.
get like the balance for Game of Thrones. Yeah, I don't know. I still have a lot of trust issues with Damon Lindelof, who's the showrunner. I mean, I know he came. What was the show he did? I couldn't even watch it. He did do
The Leftovers.
The
That's it,
Leftovers.
right?
I know everybody really said, oh, he redeemed himself with The Leftovers. So, I mean, I hope he did, but yeah, just too much trust issues there for me to really be like, oh, I can't wait to see The Watchmen. You know, a Preacher is another show that's wrapping up.
And they kept close to the material.
did.
And then they went
Yeah.
very far from the material, so they kept bouncing back and forth.
That
Yeah.
seems to be the new model, as I've
Yeah.
noticed. The beginning holds really, really close, and then they diverge more and more. It seems from, as a retailer, I see people come in, and then they can actually get into the comic a little more easily, I think. I think it's pretty smart, because at the beginning they feel very comfortable.
Right.
You know, the first issue of The Walking Dead is almost identical to
Yeah,
the
it's
first
shot for
episode.
shot.
Yeah, pretty nearly. And then almost immediately it starts to diverge. I don't know who did it first, maybe Scott Pilgrim, and I'm not sure if it was intentional, but they've either intentionally or accidentally created this excellent way for the comics people to feel comfortable first going into the movie, feeling like, oh, this is mine, this is my inside world, but then they get something new. And the people that come from the movie, discovering the comic book or graphic novel, be like, whoa, and then slowly be like, whoa,
Yeah.
this isn't it at all, this is new.
I kind of feel the opposite with that like Deadly Class. I'm like, no, I don't want to read the comic book. Like
you-
I'm in.
Yeah?
I don't
Is the
want
show
any of
that
this to
good?
be changed
Well,
at all.
there is that aspect of it, because you do have the people that have not read the book, don't know the history of the character, and will enjoy the different medium and the direction that they take it in. Whereas those who have read it and are diehard fans and are like, this is the Bible and we must not stray from this script, you kind of have to find that happy medium where you're, you know, making the fans happy, but still getting that new readership or that new audience that you wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, comics and movies. So let's talk about some of the things that are coming up. Endgame, did anybody get tickets? All right, seriously. Dark Phoenix coming, Spider-Man Far From Home, New Mutants, Joker, and Birds of Prey, and Wonder Woman 1984. Anybody want to talk on any of those subjects? Or
I'm all in for Joker, man.
Yeah?
Like, yeah, well, because I feel like it's part homage, but it's also just like it's a testament to, like, to me, the best DC in the world, which is DC when there's nobody like controlling it and just letting somebody tell a story for the sake of telling a story. And when you get like an actor like Joaquin Phoenix to like invest in a character like that, I think you're probably going to get something really powerful out of it.
Well,
it just looks interesting.
I think it's interesting what's happening with DC's movies, because they are going a lot more towards kind of auteurs making them. I mean, auteurs in a limited sense, but you know, obviously Patty Jenkins with Wonder Woman showed that she had her vision for it, and it really worked out. And then James Wan with Aquaman, kind of a surprise how big that movie was.
Nobody
You know,
saw that coming.
Yeah, nobody. And now Shazam. Shazam has done really well. It's been a complete success. So I think that, you know, they're going more with this different views, these different kinds of visions. Whereas, of course, you know, Endgame, I mean, Marvel, could it be any more under one, like, driving force, one driving vision? And, you know, we're all there for it. So what do you guys, with Endgame, are you into spoilers? Do you care if it's spoiled for you? I'm kind of curious for people.
I'm just going to hold my ears over here.
I
and be
already
like,
know it's going to be spoiled for me because I know so many people have gotten tickets already and I have not. So everybody's going to be telling me everything that's going on.
Yeah, I
And
did
it's
just
fine.
because I got fancy movie tickets. Like I'm treating myself because
Did you pay $3,000 for it?
Not quite, but enough. And it's like fancy seats, you know, ones that recline, like people bring you food. So it's like it's in-game time.
Yeah.
But like I don't mind spoilers, but that's one of those films where it's like it's so geek-centric. Like I don't want anybody to tell me what happens. I want to see it. Just go see it, get it out of the way. It's like work.
I have a frustrating perspective in a store. People,
Oh,
and I
dear.
love my customers, but they can't seem to help themselves. So I gave up on it a long time ago, but awesomely, luckily, I generally don't really care about spoilers. I kind of feel like if you spoil it for me and the spoiler ruins the movie, if you tell me the twist and then I don't enjoy the movie, maybe there wasn't as much meat there to begin with. If someone spoils it for me and I still enjoy the movie, then I'm like, oh, this is worth rewatching again and again and again. But maybe I'm a little weird.
Unless it's Game of Thrones, and then I'll just burn this place down.
Then the spoiler doesn't spoil the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
my primal moment in life was when I was a kid going to see The Empire Strikes Back in the theater, before media, before anything.
Cutting school. Just
not
saying.
knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that moment, I mean, everything about it just, and my whole life I've been searching to have that happen again. So I'm very anti-spoilers for things that I care about. I want to go in and I just want to see it for the first time and try to recapture that childhood magic.
Chasing that dream.
Yeah, I am. I'm chasing that dream, yeah.
I hear you. All right, so next up, let's hit some retail news here. Walmart, DC, 100-page giant comics with new material, not reprints. They're talking, it's going to be exclusive. They're also talking, it's not going to be exclusive. Let's throw it over to Jon Gorga. What's up with that? Will you be getting it?
I actually have a few because some little bird went through a Walmart and then came through me, do you want these? So why wouldn't I, right? So I actually have a few in the store. I'm not sure how I'm going to price them, to be honest. I don't know whether I should be treating it as a kind of an exclusive, the opposite of an exclusive in the way, like I have this exclusive. I don't know how many other stores have already done what I've done. I was a little upset. Yeah, I was a little upset when I heard about it. I was a little bit like, we're the guys that are keeping you alive in a lot of ways. We're the guys on the front lines, and you're kind of stabbing us in the back and then signing up with Walmart. But I recognize that they've got to get new readers. I know that I bought comics in a Toys R Us as a kid. It wasn't my first comics, it wasn't what got me in, but I'm sure lots of kids in the early 90s found those little packs that were only like $5. I've seen them at places like Five Below. I recognize they've got to get, we've got to get new readers.
Yeah. I mean, that's what got
and the
me in as a
movies.
kid. It was rando trades in like some thrift store or whatever. That was the drug
Yeah.
that got me to your store.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it ends up doing that. And I think probably they've got the wisest balance. Like, it's mostly reprint with one new story. It's 100 pages. Then it's exclusive to Walmart. 6 months later, they release it in a format that we're more used to for stores like mine. It's a fair enough balance. Well, once I learned that it was going to be in my store eventually, that my customers weren't completely left out, and that I wasn't completely left out of the process, I thought, balance, fair enough. I can work with that.
All right, let me throw something over here from the science department here, talking about different formats of comic books. Digital comics, are they saving the environment?
I don't think so, because everybody has to buy all those, devices full of rare earths and, that'll last for,
And have to be plugged into the wall and run on electricity.
All right, so my question is, how about different ways of saving the planet? They're always talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doing that Green New Deal, but she's getting an indie comic. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anytime somebody gets in the news, there are certain comics publishers who will jump right on it with their own quickie comic, and hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everybody's in it to make a buck, and so it gets a lot of talk. Remember when Obama was president? And
I still think about that.
I do too,
Yeah.
but I think about the Spider-Man issue, and
Sure.
you were a retailer then, right? I mean, that issue, people were...
No, let me see. It literally was a few months before my first job in comics
they
retail.
were lining up. They were lining up to buy this
I
comic
remember.
book just
I
because
remember.
Obama met Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So,
I
that's a
remember,
different time.
Eric Larson expressed the fact that he was really on it first because I think Obama appeared in a Savage Dragon issue 2 or 3 months before the inauguration, 2 or 3 months before he won. And Eric Larson was like, I was there first. I did it. Nobody lined up for me.
Yeah. Well, there's sometimes these celebrity cameos don't work, like Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's all not a good idea.
All right, so here's another thing. Speaking of the saving the planet and things like this, Zeea, I'm going to ask you. No, seriously, you knew this one was coming. Your dad, Neal Adams, talking about the expanding Earth hypothesis. Do
It's
you
not
agree
expanding.
with it? No, it's not expanding.
It's
What is
not
it?
expanding. It's growing.
School us right now.
It's growing the same way we grow, the same way geodes grow, the same way plants grow. It's growing.
The planet is growing.
The planet is growing. What we did basically is using some of the animation programs that we worked with for animatics, which eventually became motion comics technology.
Right.
Is
you used for the X-Men motion comics. I
X-Men
remember
Gifted,
that.
yeah, that was fun. I got to blow stuff up. But basically what I did was cut apart the continents of the globe, remove all of the ocean, and pull everything together. Now, we've all heard the Pangea, it all on one side, but dirt, rock, everything is not elastic. It's not going to reach around to the other side of the planet. But if you take all of those continents and you pull them together straight, they all fit perfectly on a smaller globe. So with all of the stuff that's coming through the galaxy and hitting our planet on a regular basis, this is why we have the aurora borealises
Right.
at both poles. That's all stuff coming from the galaxy and hitting Earth. And that makes the Earth grow from the inside, where the continental plates are, and you've got the ridges in
the
the
tectonic
ocean,
plates, right.
where it pulls apart, and it's pulling apart. The oceans grow a little bit each year, and that's all over the globe. So yeah, it's growing.
We should definitely teach this in schools. I'm just throwing
Well,
it out there.
the
Hey, maybe we
schools-
could get
the
Neal Adams
schools-
in there. I'd listen.
The schools don't like it because they like their, this is what's understood now, and we don't want to change the books or
That's
anything
very
like
true.
that. And
That's true.
actually, one of my nieces got into it with her science teacher over us working on the growing Earth, and they were doing Pangea at school, and we're just like, yeah, but there's this other idea out there that maybe you ought to consider. But yeah, no, they don't like that.
Well, you're starting all sorts of trouble. Well done. All right.
Well,
now-
we're Adamses. We like to.
We have a special guest with us right here today. We have, via Skype, Jimmy Palmiotti. Let's give it up for him.
Hey guys,
Hey, Jimmy, how are you feeling
Hey.
today?
Jimmy?
pretty good, pretty good. How about all you?
I'm doing all right, man. So we've been talking about various different things, but one of the topics that we would like to talk about, you've got a Kickstarter going on there, and I remember Kwanza here had a very popular Kickstarter too. So let's talk a little about Kickstarter and the ways that people could do that and get some comic action going on.
Well, mine went up yesterday. It's a hardcover Painkiller Jane original new story that Amanda and I wrote and Juan Santa Cruz drew. And it's got that. It's got an extra story I'm reprinting in the back of it, and it's got a pinup gallery from a lot of friends, including Rick Leonardi and Mike Oming and a whole bunch of people. And we launched it yesterday. So far, so good. It's a lot of work. Kickstarters. Kwanza's going to agree with me there. And it's not for everybody. It's not for the weak.
All right. Well,
It's definitely a marathon.
yeah, that's Kwanza over there, and Kwanza was saying on the way here, right? You were saying on the way here that you threw some dough to it.
Oh, absolutely. The minute I saw it, I think John H. Hill put it up there, and I was like, Painkiller Jane, bought it.
See, people are
I
up in this.
appreciate that, man. I said thank you for that. Yeah, John is our designer and letterer. John's amazing. He's one of the best in the business. But I just wanted to get a book out there because I haven't done Jane in a while, and my last experience publishing it was through Marvel, their Icon label, and it didn't go well. I actually did much better with the book not being part of Marvel and Icon. I actually lost a lot of sales going with them, and I think it's mainly because at the time people weren't really looking for that label for anything. To be honest, it wasn't a very exposed label for Marvel.
Okay, so Jimmy, we're throwing out some topics here right now, so I'm going to throw this other topic, and I want you to comment on this if you feel up to it. We were speaking on the Marvel thing, so I want to know opinions, everybody all the way around, about Ike Perlmutter. What's up with that? We're talking about the power and the politics here. He's one of the major players. He has the major shareholder at Disney and has Marvel completely in his thing, and people don't really talk about this, but a lot of the things that he was doing, crazy, not letting superhero toys, female superhero toys. He didn't want any female superhero toys. They're talking about where he replaced the Rhodey in Iron Man, saying, in quotes, it doesn't matter if we replace them because all black people look alike, and other various things. There was another wacky thing about him attacking Bob Harris and saying that he should kill his children if they're gay.
Yep.
And just recently in the news, he bribed a former police sergeant about expediting his gun license. He's a Trump pal. He's a billionaire, and he's the main shareholder in the stock and the thing in Disney, Disney and Marvel. So, any opinions?
I don't know. I never know what to believe when it comes to stories about Ike. Like when I started at Marvel, it was my first job out of college. Like you would just hear stories. At this point, it's like Ike's like the Babadook.
Ah, okay.
I mean, that's the only way you can think about it. It's like, how do you believe half of this stuff? It seems kind of crazy. When I was there, it was about him like digging through trash cans for paper clips because he thought that people were like wasting paper clips.
Yeah, he was infamously cheap.
I've actually
Infamously cheap.
read someone who saw it happen. I mean,
Maybe they did, but it's just like, again, it's so ridiculous sometimes. Just like, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it is hard to know. I mean, unless you hear him say it on a tape or something, it is all secondhand stuff. But those quotes are pretty crazy. I mean, it must be great to be a billionaire. I guess you can just say whatever's on your mind and not worry about what anybody thinks about it.
Well, I like that you've gone to Ike because this is the third rail of comics.
Yes.
People are still so afraid of this guy that they do not want to talk about it on air or anything. So you really went there. I will say when he joined Disney after they purchased Marvel, there was some wrongful termination suits from 3 African American women that they settled. That they settled those cases, and I agree. There's kind of a larger than life, but actually the things that the guy is very cheap. I mean, that's not even a question.
He's Joe Sacco cheap, they're saying.
Yeah,
Just throwing it out there.
He's
and he's not a billionaire.
Yeah,
so.
he's insanely cheap. And people at Marvel, they has a one pot of coffee a day policy. Back in the day, you couldn't turn the lights on. I mean,
He wouldn't have couches, no couches, because he was afraid people were going to have sex on the couches at Marvel.
Yeah, no, just sleep.
Well, I mean, when I was there, I met him once up at the offices, and we had the Marvel Knights office in the penthouse, and we definitely had couches and stuff. And we worked overnight. But I've only run into him once, and he was just like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I pulled an all-nighter, and he was like, well, that's good. And that was it. That was and then I ran into him, long story short, at a Wolf Blitzer party, and he was there with somebody, and he recognized me and said hello.
Wow, he recognized you.
It was the only interaction I've ever had, and he was nice both times, but, it's so out of my realm of, I don't know him, it's sort of like commenting on things like on the internet. I really, I don't know what to say half the time when I hear that kind of stuff, because I just can't believe it goes on,
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. Next up, technology. Talking about Google streaming platforms, AI, video games, killing hardware in general. Originally, Netflix was discs. Now it's virtual communities, Fortnite, Warcraft, Sims. What's going on? People still into Roblox? Anybody see stuff for the future? I mean, you're a man on the forefront working on these different things. What have you heard? What have you seen, Jimmy?
I love technology, so I think anything that can deliver entertainment to people and make people happy is great. I have my Amazon Echo somewhere, probably listening to us right now.
I'm sure.
And I have my stereo system. I have my house is it's a robot. I think technology is interesting because I also think it's going to save the world on some level. It's going to, I love technology in medicine. Mm-hmm. So I love the leaps and bounds they're making. And, you can go dark and only read dark news about technology, right. Or you can be in the middle like I do, and I look at all the great leaps and steps they're making with technology and energy and water purification and all these people doing these great development things where they're bringing housing to places that have been, where people couldn't live before and farming and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's like anything else, it depends which way you aim your focus, whether you think it's a bad thing or a good thing.
Right. So people could just turn around and say, "Oh, Skynet, it's the end." Not so much.
It's like a shovel. You can use the shovel to dig a hole, or you can use it to kill someone.
Absolutely true.
Tools can be used for different things.
That's perfect, Heidi. I love it.
I opened.
That's why I have a shovel in the trunk of my car.
Along with the duct tape. I get you. All right, John, you were saying?
I opened up in 2013. Mm-hmm. There was already a fair amount of digital comics being sold. I mean, the few numbers we're getting, I think it's like 10%, so it's still not, competing on the global scale, but it's certainly beating me in accessibility. Someone has to come find my store, which is, in the West Village, which is a confusing neighborhood. There's only so many stores. The number of stores are dwindling. we've lost like something close to a third of the stores since 2005 or something, I think I read. And literally, while reading a comic on a phone is painful, everyone has a phone. So it's in your pocket all the time. I opened knowing that I wasn't probably going to have a 30-year run. I opened expecting maybe I'd be able to pull off 10 years, get some new readers, have some effects, support some artists. So while it's, I think in a lot of ways, it's almost certainly going to lead to the end of retail stores for books and art. Well, maybe not the end, but a transformation, to the point where it will be almost not the same thing.
You don't agree? Break it down.
There'll be a lot fewer.
Yeah.
That I can understand, but you're always going to have the people that want the hard copy books. And people are always going to want some place to get together and be that little community of collectors, and there's always going to be a call for shops.
You got a few things going for you. I mean, it's like iBooks and Kindle have not destroyed like literature.
Sure, no doubt.
Absolutely.
And
No
they're
question.
luxury devices. I mean, does everybody have $1,000 in their pocket to buy an iPad or even like a Kindle? But I also think that it might have the biggest impact on the periodicals. But I think overall, when it comes to comic books, like it's just like any other book. It'll probably shift more to the collected stuff, but then that'll be more like vinyl. You know, like streaming music didn't destroy
that's a hope.
music.
But
It was still
I
vinyl.
think disruption has already happened in so many industries and in so many retail environments. And you've already seen, disruption for so many storefronts here in New York. I mean, I think when you're talking about stores that are closing, it could just be stores, not comic shops.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Whereas, comic shops are still here, and bookstores are still here. They've actually survived disruption better than almost any other category. I mean, besides food, and because people still like to, they like to thump the melon.
Oh, we need comics trucks.
They like
Yeah,
the
people
feel.
talk
They
about
like
it.
the feel
All
of
right,
stuff.
Jimmy, you have anything to add to this?
Look, delivery is for creative. The delivery systems are great. Any way people can read comics are great, but the stores do have to adapt. Now, when I say stores, I don't mean in New York, because New York's a whole different animal. Having a store in New York is tough because right away you're behind the 8 ball with rent out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about, when I grew up in New York, there was a middle class, and that's not there anymore. Okay, so the people that bought a lot of this stuff that went into comic shops aren't doing that anymore because they either can't afford it, or they have so much money that they're just ordering stuff online and not worrying about the stores. So I think the stores are changing, and big cities have to change. They have to be, again, somebody mentioned the social thing. There has to be something different. It's hard because we're coming from a place where we saw things different, and now we're looking at things and comparing. But I think when I grew up, I didn't have Netflix. I didn't have all these channels. I didn't have all this great TV to watch. We went to movies once a month. We could only afford maybe a movie or two a month, and there was so much more now to keep people engaged. Video games are major. It's like you buy a video game for $60 and you can play that thing for for a year with people. So the comic books are 20 pages and 22 pages, and you spend in $4 and you're getting 1/8 of the story.
Increasingly more.
I think the comics have to change. I think the done-in-ones should be coming back. I think the formats shouldn't be so disposable, and I think things should sit on a rack longer, but they have to be changed. I think a lot of changes are needed, and I think comic books have been clinging on to the same thing that worked for them 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and it's not going to work out.
So what's the
if
future then?
everybody's hanging in there.
What's the future? What is the future?
The future is me retiring and not worrying about it.
All right, anybody else?
I have one idea about what the future is.
Break it
kidding,
down.
I'm kidding.
Okay, there is some software coming now that is going to give shops and publishers more access to the sell-through in comic shops. And
The
once
sell-through? What do you mean?
sell-through-
Can you?
Okay, so when you order your comics, you buy it direct from Diamond,
Righto.
or through the publisher, and it's a sale. It's already sold. You can't
No
return it.
returnability.
It's
Or
not returnable.
extremely limited
Right, extremely
returnability.
limited. But so that's a sale for the publishers. But what you are always trying to tell publishers as a retailer is what sells in your store. And they don't actually have access to any of that data right now. So if we develop some way that shows what people actually are buying in the stores, publishers will be forced to react to that. Now, they've had book scan numbers in bookstores for books for decades, okay? And that system is already in place. So if they ever get
Comic scan.
COMIX scan going.
The equivalent of book scan.
But anyway, there's a couple things coming that might
Interesting.
that might be that way, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's funny because my office is inside a comic store down here in Clearwater, Florida, called Emerald City Comics, and it's a giant store. And you know, I walk outside and I ask everybody what's selling, what's moving this week, what's not moving, what's killing your business, you know, and the guys working the store tell me, oh, this is, you know, these 800 alternate covers are destroying us, and well, this company's dumping, you know, we ordered 5 copies, they're giving us 40, and telling us if we sell more, it's great, but we have to return them and pay for the shipping, you know, so I hear all these different things, and I'm like, man, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they navigate this each week. You know, it's just such a difficult business because the tastes of everything change, but the one thing they keep telling me is that, you know, and the trades are selling less. I don't know if you guys hear that, right? So then you're trying to think, well, what do people want? And I'm not so sure. Like when I do the Kickstarters, I can tell what they're buying, what they, you know, the people that are buying, what they want, and how many digitals I sell, and how many paper books, you know, actual books they can hold in their hand sell. So it's a lot to navigate. And it's constantly changing. I think the only thing that, you know, sells a lot of are those little plastic figures. I'm forgetting the names of them.
Funkos.
The Funko.
Pop vinyls.
Yeah, I mean, that people seem to be, I think when the human race is gone and aliens come here, they're going to find billions of them and going to think they're little things we worshipped. You know, it's very confusing, but a lot of comic stores are selling more of those than comics. Right now.
I must admit, when I went to France, that's what I was buying, a bunch of those over there. All right, so now, the little section that we're going to go into now, if you'll stick around, Jimmy, if that's okay.
Yes. I'm good. I had to move everything. We're good.
Cool, man. Oh, thank you. You're sticking around. All right, so next up is we're going to be featuring a prominent creator, Geek of the Week. Today, the Geek of the Week is Mike Negan. He goes from humble comic fan beginnings, improving the treatment of creators in the artist alley, now moved up to Global Comics Talent Manager at Reed Pop, where he continues to look out for creators. Kudos to keeping comics in the comic conventions. Kudos to that gentleman. Anybody ever had to interact with him or anything like that?
It's funny when Mike goes around with that baseball bat covered with barbed wire.
That's the other Negan. Yeah.
Okay.
He's actually great, and he's very attentive to, I can speak for Artist Alley, he's very attentive to at least my family and the people that have been near me at the shows, and he's takes very good care of everybody and makes sure we're all good.
Yeah. And that's comics, honestly.
He's a great buffer for the overlords that control the shows. I like Mike because he does understand that Artist Alley in New York. He gets it, and he checks on everybody, and you know, for his crew, he's got a good crew around him, and he is the guy I like to deal with with the shows because I know he gets right back to me, and he's just one of those guys you can depend on, and what a sweet guy he is.
Yeah. He has
just a really
big
good
heart.
dude.
He's doing those charity things for St. Jude's. Artists are contributing and doing the thing.
Yeah, he's genuine good people.
Right on.
Yep.
All right. So speaking on the conventions, if I could throw this out there, the good, we're talking about conventions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, pop culture events, big conventions, big and small, horror stories. Anybody talk about the pros versus the trolls in comics thing?
Why don't you just throw a hand grenade right in the room? I mean,
Nobody's gonna throw jump on it here. Just let's hear it.
Well,
Yeah.
for conventions, I think conventions have gotten better. Like New York especially is something that's just become like near and dear to my heart. Like I've just
unless you have to go to the bathroom. Go ahead.
Right.
We'll talk about the
Yeah,
bathrooms
that's
at the
true.
conventions. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think that's definitely the main category for the ugly is the bathroom experience
Yeah.
at
I
conventions.
think
right?
I think the cosplayers need their own restroom because they're dealing with their costumes and everything. To
fit those wings through the stall door.
Well,
Maybe
they
they should just make dressing rooms.
Yeah,
Dressing
Hudson Yards. Hudson Yards is open now. It's got a lot of bathrooms,
Yeah.
so really, there's more of places to go.
But I do love it. I love that spirit and energy, especially that cosplayers have brought in. There's just this renewed dedication to like comics, but like in a holistic way. You know, it's just geek culture. Like every time I walk into a con now, it just puts a ridiculous smile on my face.
Me too.
It's like mini Disneyland.
Yeah.
We love it. Amanda and I, when they gave us Harley Quinn, the first thing Amanda did is said, I'm going to draw a different outfit for her every cover. And DC just said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And all of a sudden, 100 and something covers in, I'm laughing because we see every version of Harley that she's ever drawn. And it's such a great thing because it does make everyone in the room happy. And it does make it feel like an event, a festival.
She's influencing fashion in a comic book way.
Yes. All right, so here's another thing. Now, for me, I'm an arts educator, and it's hard to get funding for art programs, supplies, and things like this. But if universities could do it with sports, can art schools take a page from that? I'm talking like Fanfare NYC from Art and Design High School. Their PTA is running small-scale conventions, and I remember Zeea saying that her family was involved with that. Is this a possible way of subsidizing art education?
I would love it if it was, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of what helps, in particular with the schools, is that it's not just the kids. You have comic book professionals coming into the school, and these kids can ask the questions to the professionals, because at a convention, you have all your fans waiting online, and you don't really have a lot of time to speak to a professional. But at these at Fanfare, it's not super crowded, there's not huge lines or anything, and these kids get the opportunity to ask the questions and get the information and get the lowdown and where to find and who to talk to and representation and all that stuff. And it's a great opportunity for the up-and-comers, and it's fun for those of us who have been around.
So this is kids that want to be in the comics industry,
Yes.
kids that just want to learn about comics or want to read comics.
Yeah.
Opportunities.
It's really important to do that because Amanda and I have been to schools, we've done talks, we've done a lot of libraries down here in Florida where we go and for the day we talk about making comics, and they want to know even the simplest things. Well, what kind of pens, or how would I do this? And we point them to the rack of drawing books in the library and go, well, there's all your free research right there. Take a book out. But it's I went to Art and Design, High School of Art and Design, and it was something that I got to actually take classes in comic book art, and they were invaluable. But when we had a guest come in, it was like we won the lottery. If George Perez would come in and talk, then we'd have a billion questions for him that But the internet's really good with that too, because there are certain creators like myself you can ask questions to that will get back to you. But it's all really important because we have to bring up the next generation of talent all the time.
So this would be a good way to get that money flowing back into the schools and into art, so to influence that next generation. So,
Sure, and
everybody
as
has
our
a chance.
generation, you never know what a simple gesture to a kid is going to create. Many years ago, I met this kid. He came and asked me questions about doing digital coloring, and I spent probably about a half an hour talking to him because I had nothing else to do at the time. Cut to more recently, about 3 years ago, this same kid came back to me. He goes, "You probably don't remember me, but I wanted to tell you I appreciate you taking the time." Turned out to be Stuart Sager.
Oh, wow, nice.
And I saw his stuff. I was like, "Oh, you're better than me. Get out of here." But yeah.
Amanda, my wife Amanda Connor, she had a comic store years ago before I met her, and they would do an art contest every week, and or every month, I think. And so all the kids that went to the comic shop would do artwork, and then they would vote which one was the best one, and Amanda would talk them through stuff. And it wasn't until years later, same kind of story, where we were at the Eisners and James Jean won for best cover artist, and he thanked Amanda, and Amanda looked at James. She goes, "Oh my God, that's the kid that used to win the art contest in my comic store all the time." And it was James Jean. So I mean, it does make a difference. It really does.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have a career in comics if it wasn't for like Dwayne McDuffie. Like, 17 years old. I don't know how I talked my way into like Milestone's offices, but he gave me a lot of pro tips that like literally were kind of like, it was
Yeah.
it was a cheat sheet essentially that he gave me. I never got to thank him for it, but yeah, that stuff's so important.
He's listening.
All right. Yeah, right on. So those are the good things. Let's hear about some of the horror stories. Now, I know that, Kwanza, you've been through some stuff with talking about people doxing you, people all up in this thing, player hating. Just saying.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's a slightly different realm, but it's the same thing that anybody who's been in the comic book industry long enough has dealt with in different forms in terms of like, the fans who just go a little bit overboard. And I don't even know if you could call them fans or anything at that point. Maybe fanatics, like the original term. But because of the internet and people's ability to like have even more access to us, it's just like, a next level version of like fans who just take things too far and like get a little too involved and invested in like a bad way.
Well, but it's also easy to say something mean and nasty to you if I'm not having to face you directly.
Oh, yeah.
I sit behind my screen, nice and safe. They're not going to come after me.
Because I've never seen any of these people at a single con.
No, and you probably won't.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Not even,
It'd
not
be
even a
more
single gauge.
entertaining if they came up to me.
Yeah, some
I'd
people-
probably break out laughing and go, well, what can you do?
Yeah. There are, I've been on the internet for a long time, since, well, not the beginnings, but a very long time. And it's always the same. I mean, now they started out with pop guns, now they have nuclear weapons, for sure. But it's kind of, to me, the same psychology. And, as a woman, if I'm walking down the street and I get catcalled or somebody yells at me, I don't stop and argue with them. I just keep going.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of how it is. These people are trying to stop you. They're trying to get you.
Yeah.
They're trying to upset you.
They want a reaction
They
out of
want to
you.
distract you, and that's all they want. They are so unable to have things in their own life that's what they do to be creative, And it's very, very sad. And of course, you have to take a lot of precautions now. But really, to me, it's like I do not have time for the hate.
Yeah.
I do not have time for the hate.
Yeah. It's
Not
tough.
today,
Yeah,
Satan.
I have a thing where I say keep calm, slow down, and have integrity. So
Sure.
Yeah.
if you're gonna respond, be comfortable if that's the headline of a news story the next day. But if you write, if you're
Right.
comfortable with that being the headline of your news story, then it's okay. But I don't engage them. If they say, hey, I really think you suck, whatever, I go, hey, sorry you don't like it. There's plenty of other comics you should buy. There's some great ones. Here, let me recommend this by Terry Moore or something. I try not to do it because that old quote, the only power people have over you is your reaction to them, is a very good quote. So I don't react. I kind of just, go away, or I mute them if they're if it's a death threat, then of course I call it in. But I've only had 2 of those. So.
No, it took a while. It took a while to get there. I think most of it because people have so much access to us. We're not like, despite whatever bodies of work any of us produce, like it's pretty easy to get in contact with a lot of us or engage like creators. And it took a while to like let that sink in. Like it's great advice, but it took me a minute, especially when it comes to like bullying other creators. As well, you just have that natural urge to like jump in and be like, hey, you can't say that about my like colleague, and it doesn't even have to be somebody you know necessarily. It's just like, what's wrong with you? And then the next thing you know, you're just in like a stupid Twitter war for 6 months.
3 hours.
I have signs. I have one that says slow the F down. I have another one that says keep calm, have integrity. I have one that says slow down and enjoy the moment. I have signs.
You need reminded.
I look right to the side. Amanda made me some great signs.
Now we're going to start wrapping it up. So now, in final closing, here's my thing. What have you created that you are the most proud of? Let's start with Jimmy.
Sure, that's an easy one. What have I created? I guess at the moment, because I'm working on it, Painkiller Jane. But I think that's a really tough one because I have a lot of I call them kids that I love, characters I've done. I was gonna say my garden, outside my house. But,
How does your garden grow?
but I'd say right now, Painkiller Jane, I guess, is one of my favorites.
All right, next up, Kwanza.
I'm newer to the creating game, so I don't really have a lot in my resume yet, but I think one of the things in my career that I was most proud of was creating Zuda with DC Comics, because we just got so many awesome different creators into the company. So I was just really proud of the fact that I could help all of those people, in their career.
All right, next up, Heidi.
I am not necessarily a creator myself, but I am incredibly proud to have helped a lot of creators, I think. And to me, like Kwanza saying with Zuda, it's really like having worked with a lot of people. I mean, like James Jean. I mean, I also gave him like a tiny little boost, which he didn't need because he's James Genius. But, being able to see someone and help them and grow and be their best self, that's the most important thing to me.
But also the beat.
No, well, the beat, yes, also the beat. Well, the beat, yes, but that's just me. And I felt, but I've gotten a lot of people voices on the beat, and I'm really proud to have done that. So.
And also, you did some great stuff with Friends of Lulu. You
Yeah,
gotta,
well,
gotta
that's
give props to
now we really, yeah. Oh well, you know what? We're doing a little Friends of Lulu retrospective tour right now, actually.
Awesome.
So stay tuned on that. So you might
Right
see some new stuff on that.
So look for it. Keep an eye on that Comics Ace, hashtag over there. All right, and Zeea.
I'm a mom first among everything, so my kid always comes first. But after her, my bright shining star, is I recently started doing paintings on paper that I hate. I really hate the paper. It's this really big tooth, rough, hand-pressed watercolor paper that I'm learning to love in its complexity. And I've done a Freddie Mercury, I've done a Bowie, I did this huge Kiss painting, which I'm not used to painting large. So yeah, I would have to say after my daughter is my paintings.
Right on. Oh,
and the rest of my awesome family, which are like,
Hold on,
we're around each other all the time.
Wait a second, I have a question. What about that piece that your dad did that your character is named after you? Just saying, just throwing it out there. Just.
Dad got to do a 6-issue Dead Man series recently, and in the last issue, we find out that Boston and Cleveland Brand have an elder brother, Aaron, and an elder sister, Zeea. Cool. And so now in the Batman Ra's al Ghul, it's a continuation of that storyline. Cool. So we find out what happened to them.
Nice.
Ooh.
You're immortalized.
Right. I know, crazy, right? She doesn't look anything like me. Let me start off with that. But very cool. Very cool to have my name there.
Cool. Jon.
I've edited some stuff, but that always feels like being the midwife, right?
Yeah.
Push.
The teacher, the midwife, the confidant, the support, and that's what it should be, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, absolutely. No, and I'm proud to do it. I'm
Definitely
proud to
need
do it.
those.
But so I think the thing that I've had something that was more of a creation that I've had more of a direct hand in is this community that I've built with this store, because we have a drawing table in the window. It was the idea of an artist named Ellen Stedfeld, and it's really been hands-on managed a lot by a writer-artist named Patrick J. Riley. But I've been the one sort of on the front line of it. I'm the one that's in there in the store, and I'm the one who's kept it alive by attaching a store to it that pays the bills somehow. So I'd say actually that community and that opportunity for anybody to come in and use a drawing table in a window of a comic book store that I've co-created.
Like fun.
is the thing
That's
I'm most
awesome.
proud of.
Cool.
Great.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Creator Code. I would love to thank all my guests. Thank the panel here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Come on, you guys can give yourselves a hand. You guys are awesome here. And let's give it up for Jimmy Palmiotti over there, out there. Hey, Jimmy, thank you for coming on in. Right on. You've been watching the Creator Code. We're all in this together. Just let it out. Peace.
Take care, guys.